and welcome to this program, Preserving Central Oregon's Dark Skies. I'm Laurel Westendorf. I'm part of the Community Relations team at the Deschutes Public Library. Every month we explore a theme in our programming, and this month's theme is place. So tonight we'll be exploring Sunriver's designation as a dark skies place and the continuing efforts to protect our local dark skies. Our presenter is Bob Grossfield. He's Observatory Manager of the Sunriver Nature and Observatory Center located in Sunriver, Oregon. Bob spearheaded the Dark Sky Place effort, which was backed also by the Sunriver Owners Association. Thank you, Bob, for sharing the story of this big accomplishment for Oregon as a whole and how we can continue to protect our dark skies.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come online and at least discuss some of the things that we're doing over here at the observatory. And I also want to point out some of the ways we were able to get our designation here in Sunriver, and talk a little bit about who we are, what we do at the observatory too. So I thought I would start with a little bit of background with what we do and where we came from as far as doing our designation. Part of this is part of the International Dark Sky Association, which is based in Arizona, and we've actually worked with them for many years, trying to promote dark sky applications, and especially in the area of amateur astronomy. And that has always been a prime focus for us at the observatory. And the reason we have gotten so involved in that is because of all of our activity that we have done at local star parties, not only in Central Oregon, but also throughout Washington, California, Nevada, and other areas that we've been able to go and visit and talk about what we do. So my background is a little bit different. I know I've been involved with the observatory for about 30 years, so I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of changes in Central Oregon. Central Oregon has been continuing growing, certainly growing a lot now in the last couple of years. And so the educational part of protecting the dark sky in Central Oregon has become a bigger and bigger issue. So I kind of want to overview a little bit about what the International Dark Skies Association is. Then I want to talk a little bit about Sunriver in general and what we were able to do here, and why the designation for Sunriver is so important. So we'll go into some detail into that. But the International Dark Sky Association is really about promoting protecting the night sky, and not just for amateur astronomers. A lot of people think that it's all about amateur astronomers wanting to see the sky, and that's partially the case, but there's a lot more to it. And the concept of being able to see the night sky is kind of important to me, because I grew up in California, and those of you that have been to maybe the Bay Area where I grew up, you know, we saw 7 stars in San Jose. I went to college in Santa Cruz and saw very few stars there. So the college I went to, which is University of California at Santa Cruz, had a huge astronomy department, and their telescopes were actually located far away, most in Hawaii and other locations. So I kind of grew up with the idea of wanting to be able to see the night sky, but not being able to. And we spent a lot of time at a place called Lick Observatory in San Jose, which is between San Jose and Livermore, for those of you that have been in the Bay Area. And that really introduced me to the idea of what big cities were like. And San Jose actually did a great job of protecting the sky by using what at the time was the best, most efficient lighting available, which was mercury vapor light. So instead of the white glow, we kind of had the orange glow going on. So very early on in the 80s and 90s, that was a big thing. The United States, Europe, definitely most of the Western civilization have a light pollution problem. So every year in April, we go back east to New York for a big astronomy convention in upstate New York, which is one of the worst places, as you can see on the map, to actually look at the night sky. Lots of light pollution. And this is a more current picture. When I first saw these images taken by the astronauts on board the International Space Station and from orbiters, the pictures from 1980 were much different than they were in 2005. As a matter of fact, 1980, Central Oregon barely showed up. And of course, now with our growth, we actually show up quite well from the night sky. And you can see where there's no population, how beautiful the night sky, especially the southern hemisphere from the light pollution. So you can see the east coast of the United States there and Florida, and then you can see the big cities on the west coast. And certainly Europe has a ton of lights. So what's the deal with light pollution? Unlike a lot of pollution on our planet, it's a pretty easy thing to deal with. When you talk about water pollution, air pollution, those types of things, that is a big deal. You have to deal with a lot of different variables in dealing with those types of things. But light pollution, it's literally turn a switch and you can solve the issue. And and there's becoming more and more reason to do that. And technology has changed enough where we're seeing a reason to actually benefit from it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. This is something we see a lot, is sky glow. So, being in Sunriver, one of the best educational components of what we do is being able to talk about the light glow from Bend. And so if you've been to Sunriver and you can look to the north during a nice dark night with no moon, you can see the glow from Bend. And we here at the observatory, the staff calls it Aurora Bendialis. It's the glow of Bend. We got this big giant lava flow between us and Bend, and so we can actually see the glow. So from an educational standpoint, it's wonderful. Unfortunately, the glow isn't really affecting our viewing per se, because we don't look that low on the horizon, on the northern part of the horizon, but we can see how much it's been increasing. And there's a way to measure, actually get a physical measurement on that. Along with ourselves here at the observatory, Worthy Brewery in Bend, and we have another light detector in Tethero in Bend, and we have one in Prineville, Prineville State Park, where we're actually measuring the light pollution, if you will, from different variable locations in Central Oregon. We plan to add a few more of those meters to actually see what it looks like. And glare, I know you're all used to glare and how I'm dealing with that. It's kind of like looking at a car headlight. So what good lighting makes a huge difference. Now, previous to working at the observatory, and certainly something I still do, one of the things that I've been doing since I was in high school was like lighting for bands. So playing with light has been a part of my life for a long time. But we learned a lot about quality of lighting. And even in southern Deschutes County, we see a lot of light being spilled onto the ground and creating glare. And some people actually have it shining into their neighbor's home. So that's never a good thing either. So let's kind of talk a little bit about that. So lighting down the street corner, and you've seen this in Bend in certain areas where we have these lights that are just not filtered down. This was the big difference between Sunriver and most of Deschutes County, is we found that a lot of parts of Deschutes County, and certainly in Redmond and Bend, the city areas where lights were just shielded lights, and so not having them point down where the light is needed. So you get this nasty glare as you look across. And some of you that live in Bend, I'm sure have seen this in some of your neighborhoods for sure. There are some consequences for light pollution. Some of it obtains to us in Central Oregon, some of it doesn't. But overall, it gives you a good idea. One of the big things that we got to think about is the impacts, especially on wildlife. And of course, Central Oregon and certainly Sunriver, which was founded on protecting wildlife and keeping the natural life intact and the natural view of the world intact, is important. Now, we don't have sea turtles here, but this was one of the big things that drove the IDA to help with lighting. And this is from the East Coast, where these sea turtles would always move towards artificial light instead of going out to the ocean with the moon. So one of the things that they learned early on is if we could change the lighting, the turtles would have a better option to go. And certainly birds are one wonderful thing in Central Oregon, a big thing in Sunriver, but birds do get confused by light. And we see this in the major metropolitan areas like New York, Las Vegas, those types of places. So having light is very, very difficult for especially migrating birds. And so that's a big thing for us here at the observatory and the Nature Center. Trees is another thing. Most people don't understand that artificial light does affect trees, that sometimes they'll bud a little earlier and they'll lose their leaves a little bit later in artificial light. There's actually been studies showing the differences between how trees react to light. So most people don't think about the trees as a living creature in the sense of how it's affected by this light pollution. And you can see the upper left picture there, that light there that is just like exposed light that will spill onto the foliage that is there. This is the big one. I think energy waste is the saving grace of solving the pollution problem as far as light pollution is concerned, because if you can help put money in your pocket, why not do it? And this is something that I think is really important. I think the idea of billions of dollars being wasted on unneeded lighting is a way for people to understand how lighting affects their bottom line and what we can do to help save money, and also the CO2 the amount of energy being wasted in being exposed and burned for unnecessary lighting that's not needed. And the biggest thing in Deschutes County, and a lot of people think out, especially out in the ranches and things like that, is this idea of how light regulates sleep and how it works with people. So the American Medical Association has definitely done some studies on LEDs in particular, on how much better they are for people dealing with sleep. And there's actually a few groups of people that use lights for meditation and things like that, and proper lighting is certainly a key to that. The heritage of dark skies, when we think about the night sky, this is an important component of it. A lot of folks, and I'm sure some of you, since we live in Central Oregon, have spent numerous hours underneath the dark sky of Central Oregon, or maybe a nice, beautiful moonlit night, and being able to just kind of take it all in. And the inspiration has been huge in mankind's past. And certainly the activity levels of being able to see things differently. So like in the observatory, we are like, okay, it's getting dark, so come on outside, come out to the observatory and look at the night sky, as opposed to, in the old days when you used to tell your kids, hey, it's getting dark, come on in. Okay. So the idea of the activities that can be done during the nighttime has kind of changed. The other thing that we find in Central Oregon, especially in South County, is lights that are exposed to try to keep things safe. Like we're going to, keep people away, intruders from, stealing our stuff in front of our garage or whatever, by having a bunch of light. But it turns out that quality lighting works a lot better. So you can kind of see here, just, reducing the glare. Really well-designed lighting is a lot safer, and you can light areas that are better. And the best analogy of this is like, next time you drive up to a gas station on 3rd Street, notice how much light is coming straight down and how bright the light is. And then right across the street, there's another gas station with a bunch of light on, and it's kind of drawing your attention over there. I always think about this more when we have the Pandora moths flying around, because they're all attracted to all the really bright light. But certainly it's a way to drive people in, and people think that by having a lot of light in a location will draw more customers to their door. So better lighting is actually safer than just a maximum amount of lighting. And, as far as the light pollution, this map kind of gives you an idea of what's projected at 2% a year, where we're going to be in 2025. And upper left there, you'll see Portland, Seattle, and Central Oregon growing along with it. And this is a big concern, because we can do better than this. There's a way to not have light being pushed into the sky and directed towards the ground. And that is what the IDA is trying to promote. And that is something that the Sunriver Owners Association did a long time ago, way before the observatory was around. They actually found a way to put in their bylaws a way to have efficient lighting, so we didn't have all this light being exposed to the night sky, so you couldn't see the night sky. And we have these little meters. You can see the gentleman there holding one in his hand. We can actually measure the darkness of the sky. And most of you, I'm assuming, that are joining us tonight, I believe most of you are probably from Central Oregon. Now, I will tell you, if you've been in Central Oregon for any period of time like I have, I am really, really appreciative of the quality of the night sky here in Central Oregon. It is true that I have friends that have live in downtown Bend, and it's not the greatest in downtown Bend. We helped put Worthy Brewery telescope in down on the east side of town, and that's not the best lighting there either. But it's a great it's great compared to where I moved from. Most of the folks that come to the observatory are from Portland, Seattle, San Francisco Bay Area, LA, major metropolitan areas, and they just don't have the ability to see the night sky like we do. So I feel like us Central Oregonians are really spoiled by the quality of the night sky that we actually have. And sometimes we might even take it for a little bit for granted. It is a pleasure to work at the observatory and have someone come to the facility and actually view and enjoy the night sky. And a lot of them have never seen the sky like that before. Even prior to the whole COVID thing, we were doing viewing at the public library in downtown, and it was great to be able to show people, even in a well-lit area, some great views of the moon and Jupiter and Saturn. So I'm hoping after the whole COVID thing is over, we can return to playing around down there at the library, different branches. So we're hoping soon that that will be the case. And this is the statistics always just blows me away. Okay. Even when I was growing up in the Bay Area, I got to see the Milky Way. Of course, I had to go to Lake Tahoe to see that. But the point is that, you know, when you think about 2 out of the 10 people on Earth can see the Milky Way, that's 20% of people on the Earth can actually see the Milky Way. And in the United States and Europe, you know, 99% of the population live in places that have light pollution. Now that to me is just staggering. That whole concept of not being able to see the Milky Way just kind of blows me away. But it's a true statistic, and it's not getting any better. So that's kind of a disappointment in that respect. I got to talk about the earthquake in Los Angeles. And actually, I'll go backwards before I talk about that. In 1989, there was an earthquake in the San Jose Bay Area, San Francisco, and we lost our power in San Jose. I actually lived in Los Gatos at the time, and power went out, and we could actually see the Milky Way. So that was kind of cool. But in '94, when the earthquake took place in LA, and the power went out, the #1 phone call to 911, because it happened like 3 a.m, so everything went out pitch black, and people could see the Milky Way. And they were calling the observatory in LA, and they were calling 911 to find out what that thing was, that white glow going across the sky, what that was. And it was the Milky Way. People there had not seen the Milky Way at home, so it was very odd to go walk out at 3 a.m. during the earthquake, checking things out, and look up and see the swatch of stars going across the sky. So, you know, that just kind of tells you how much we take it for granted, where people live in areas where they never see it. And it took an earthquake for a lot of these folks to realize what was going on. What I find interesting about that is we get a lot of people from Los Angeles and from major metropolitan areas that come to Sunriver. They come at twilight, and it's all, you know, sun's going down. And then all of a sudden they see the Milky Way going across, or we're doing a little laser tour and they see the Milky Way, and they've never seen it before. And they're just fascinated by that. And it takes a little convincing for them to understand, hey, look, in your night sky, every night it's dark when there's no moon, you just can't see it because of light pollution. So that is just an interesting part of learning about light pollution in general. And we can make a difference on protecting the night sky. Deschutes County has some lighting ordinances, even though they're not real stringent. There are communities within Bend that are looking at light pollution as a component. And Sunriver is way ahead of most people because of their rules that they had in their regulation 50 years ago, 51 years ago now, when Sunriver was actually started. And that makes a huge difference. So what are we talking about? How can we make a difference? There's a simple solution to dealing with light pollution. I mentioned at the beginning that, you know, air pollution, water pollution, little tougher conditions to solve, but the idea of solving the issue of light pollution is a little easier to deal with. I just want to show you a few things here. First of all, shielding. Shielding is the number one thing. We really don't need to light the sky up. We just want to point the light down so we can actually see the area that we want to do. And this is a good example of changing the building's lighting so that you can actually, have some lighting pointing down. And one of the things that we look at now with LEDs, the new types of lights, we can control the light type of conditions for temperature and lighting temperature. And so when you're inside your house and you want to read something more towards daylight helps a lot. Maybe in the kitchen or a workplace, you might do a little bit more of that bright white. And you probably go into Home Depot or your favorite hardware store, and they have all these LEDs and different color temperatures. I even got a light bulb recently where I can actually turn on and off the switch a few times, and I can change the color temperature of the light. So depending on what I'm in the mood for. So this is a great way of being able to manipulate light, where in the old days, it was all this incandescent lighting and quartz lighting. It was just really bright, couldn't control temperature, and it was very, very different than what we have available today. And lighting ordinances are probably one of the cool ways of having a community work together. I know in Bend, like I mentioned, there's some communities working on lighting conditions. I know Tethro, Black Butte Ranch, and a few others have been working on some lighting ordinances. And that is a way to help prevent light pollution from being a real problem. And there are some good lights out there. You can do this at home. I'm not going to go through all the cool lighting fixtures they have, but you can always think about a shielded light being better than something that spills the light upwards. And the IDA has a bunch of fixtures that are approved. And a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to deal with that. They're the most expensive. It turns out that you can actually go to Home Depot and get most of these lights that help shield light down. So I want to give you a few good examples of how lighting works that way. The International Dark Sky Association is really about promoting fixes for light pollution and try to promote, responsible outdoor lighting. That's their whole gig. It's all about and saving you money, because by having efficient lights saves you money for sure. And they not only work in the United States and Canada, they're all over the world. They have been promoting nighttime environments all over the world, and there are a couple hundred sites throughout the globe that are part of the IDA that are reserves for protecting light conditions and the night sky. And there is a lot of ways you can get involved. You can join the IDA and get on their little newsletter, and you can see about all the things that they're trying to do. Now, how did we, Sunriver, get involved in this? Well, Sunriver, the community of Sunriver is very unique in a lot of ways. So you have to go back in history a little bit. So 1969, when they actually started Sunriver, and they really wanted to protect the natural environment, trees, wildlife, water, everything. But they were caught onto the concept of protecting the night sky. There was no observatory planned in the original plan for Sunriver, but they wanted to be able to have people come to Sunriver, wander through the trees, hang out on the river, but be able to see the night sky. So they put in their construction bylaws. So if you built a house in Sunriver, you had to follow certain guidelines to have your house approved. And so they would actually make you cover a light bulb. Now, in the 60s and 70s, lighting was very different than it is today. We didn't have all this cool stuff, right? We didn't have the electronic timers. We didn't have LED bulbs. We didn't have all this other really nice, efficient lighting that is energy efficient and looked nice. So they basically put boxes around everything, wood boxes mostly. So to point the light downward so that no light was pushing over to your neighbor's yard and no light was being spilled upward. And that same philosophy in Sunriver has carried over even today. And new construction in Sunriver still has to follow those same kind of guidelines. So if you're going to have your home built, you can't go stick out a big floodlight and have it spilling light over to your neighbor's yard. They're not going to let you do that. That was a way for them to control the lighting ordinances that they had in Sunriver. It is true that over the years, over the period of years, over 50 years, they have made slight changes to the lighting ordinances, but the idea still hangs true. even when they redesigned the mall, that was part of it. And I will also give a little note out to ODOT, the Department of Transportation, when they were building the crossover for the highway out near Sunriver, they actually contacted us and said, hey, we want to put lighting in here. What do you recommend? If you ever drive out there in a snowstorm, which is now snowing here right now, so if you drove out here today, you'd actually see all those lights at the intersection for the highway are all pointing straight down. No light is spilling up. So you can only see the snow falling straight down. You can't see it up above. So it's kind of I'm really glad that they did that, because that helped protect us from the light pollution that would have been there from that area that they lit very well. So let's look at some of the stuff in Sunriver. This is actually looking at the Sunriver Village Mall. Kind of a dark picture. We took this at twilight because we had to wait till lights come on. Their lights actually come on in the evening. It is on timers, and you can see the lights are pointing straight down. And this is very key in order to get past Sunriver. Now, Sunriver's ordinance is great, but the IDA also requires the same thing. So when we went to the International Dark Sky Association about saying, hey, we want to make Sunriver a community, a dark sky community, that's the first thing they were looking for, is how are we doing our lighting? And as it turns out, all the buildings, and this is the building, I think this is the old pizza parlor in Sunriver, which I think is now a new pizza parlor in Sunriver, but you can see the lights on the overhangs are all pointing straight down. There's nothing pointing out towards the pavement there. This is the newer part of, this is building 25 in Sunriver Mall, and you can see the lights are all pointing straight down, and very energy efficient lights, all LED. Some of these might be actually mercury sodium bulbs, but I believe they've all been switched out now to LED type fixture. But once again, all the light pointing straight down. This is some of the old lighting in the mall, and I wanted to include this because I knew they're going to change these things out. Those of you that have been to Sunriver, lights have been changed out to LEDs by Mid-State Electric. These are some of the old fixtures, but you can still see the cap going over the light, so only the light can come straight down. There's just coming down as a cone. So this lighting works very, very well. This is some of the old light fixtures still left in Sunriver. Now, you probably know that the resort is still in Sunriver. The resort has tons of walkway light. They got lights everywhere, but they also have to abide by Sunriver Owners Association lighting ordinance. And so it works out great for us, because around the resort, same thing. All the lights are heading straight down. And so it makes it a much more energy efficient and much more beneficial lighting, because they're pointing the light in the direction for the safety of their guests. Okay, so they didn't really compromise on what they were trying to do. They just had to fit the criteria. They're still getting safe lighting in an area for people to walk through, but they're also protecting the night sky. This is right outside of the Great Hall, if you've ever been to the Great Hall. Once again, all the lights pointing down. Now, these light fixtures that you see here are super old. Okay, they've been there for over 30 years since I've been around, and they're still pointing straight down. Now, some of the new lighting has been retrofitted with LED, and these have LED bulbs in them now, but you can see it's the same fixture that actually points the light straight down. So Sunriver has done a great job in that respect of protecting the sky. This is, once again, the Great Hall area, and you can see the lights all pointing straight down. Even the walkways have little lights that are pointing straight down. Now, this particular fixture is ideal for a walkway, driveway, something like that, even at your home, that would light up the walkway. Now, in this case, the walkway is to the left there, so you kind of get an idea of how this kind of fixture, you know, something you can get Home Depot, that kind of thing, just something pointing the light down. This light's a little misleading because I took this picture when it wasn't turned on, but you can kind of see that little cone that's covering down to keep the light pointing straight down. This is the entrance to the Great Hall. Once again, the light that you see going up slightly is underneath some overhangs. And then on the lower left there, you can see those walkway lights that I just showed you, and with them turned on. It's hard to take pictures at twilight when lights are coming on, so you can at least see them, but you can see the little walkway lights around the outside of the walkway there. This is actually a picture of the new streetlights that Midstate put in. These are LED streetlights. Funny story about this: when they were coming around to put in new lighting, that, one of our guys, one of our volunteers, Don, he was out, at the observatory, and there's a mid-state guy out there putting in a pole right in front of the pool and on the observatory, right where beginning of our parking lot. And what they did is they went around and said, okay, every intersection we want to put a street light. That makes a lot of sense, but not at an observatory. We didn't want a big white light, so Don was able to help us out there. But all Sunriver's lighting now has been switched over to these new lights, and some of them, this is right outside of SROA, the fire department, the owner storage area. You can see the street light, and some people complained about the white light being so intense and spilling out so far. A mid-state actually put a cone over it to point the light more down. And so you'll see in Sunriver, some of these lights have been retrofitted to have a little area that has the cone coming down to keep the light pointing straight down. So it's kind of a changeover from this to this. So it's kind of a neat way to solve a problem with the same light fixture. This is a dark picture. It's hard to see, but this is out front of the mall at night. You can see the walkway is well lit, but the sky is not lit at all, and the building is not lit at all. What about at the observatory itself? Well, this is the entrance to the observatory, which I'm super excited to show you this picture, because I'm hoping in 6 months from now, that won't be the view there anymore. We're actually looking to build a new building right where you see that walkway coming through. We're actually going to build another roll-off building, which I'll show you a picture of the observatory here in a minute. But you can see all the downlights on the face there. Oops. And these lights are stationed out. These are very simple. These are $25 light fixtures with that point straight down. Yes, they're all red lights because that's the color we use at the observatory to protect the visitor's night vision. But it's certainly a great light fixture for doing what we want to do. And this is looking out in our parking lot, looking to the south, and you can see the same kind of light fixtures that are out there pointing down. These are all actually white lights, and they light up that little walkway between our two parking lots. Along the pathway of the Nature Center, once again, very inexpensive, $35 lights that basically have LED bulbs in them, and you can see how they have cones over them. The light is pointing straight down and lights up just the walkway so people can see where they're going at night. So it's kind of a nice setup. And so our budget is limited because of our nonprofit, but we were able to get some nice lighting in there. Now, originally, if you would have come here, I don't know, years ago, this would have been a wood box over a jelly jar. That's how most of the lights were in Sunriver many years ago before we actually upgraded a little bit. And there's the walkway. You can see people. So we get about in the summertime, prior to COVID, 200 to 300 people a night have to walk back and forth along the way here. And, we haven't had anyone fall off the walkway or couldn't see where they were going. But you can see that these lights are actually the old wood boxes that we had covering up. That big bright light you see coming from way out the observatory, that is actually a light at the observatory at twilight. So it's kind of a unique photograph for sure. And out in our amphitheater where we do our programs, all the lights are pointing straight down. So once again, help protect the night sky. And we actually do our little program. Once again, prior to COVID, I should mention there's probably 250 people in that amphitheater right there. This was all before COVID. Our programs now in the wintertime, we're limiting groups to 25 and they're all outdoors. In the summertime, we were doing groups of 45. So depending on where we are with the whole COVID thing, will determine what we do for 2021. This was previous to 2020 in the craziness of the COVID restrictions. So what does our night sky look like? I did not take this picture. Sorry to say. This is some of you might have remembered we got a gift this COVID season of Comet Neowise. And this is Neowise over the observatory. Once again, you can see the front lights all pointing straight down. Those are the red lights I was mentioning in the picture you saw during the daylight. And that middle light, there's actually a sundial light that we have pointing straight down. But look how bright that comet is hanging out over behind the observatory. And that was really low in the sky. I'm super excited about when we got to see this comet. It wasn't looking directly towards Bend because then we would have to deal with the light pollution a little bit more. When we saw the comet in the morning, because if you remember and saw the comet, you remember that we saw it in the nighttime and the morning. In the morning, we'd actually look more towards towards the night sky towards Bend. This is looking at the Milky Way above and coming out of the inside of the observatory. And this is one of our telescopes just taking a still images of the night sky across the sky there. And let's see, I got a couple more to show you. Once again, the Milky Way coming across over through the big telescope area. This is a roll-off roof. If you're wondering what the building is, if you have not been to the observatory, this is the roll-off part of the building that has 6 telescopes mounted inside. And to the left there is our dome, where you can actually use a telescope inside there. And out back, once again, this is looking towards the east, and you can see our lights pointing straight down in our back patio where a bunch of telescopes are set up. This is actually an old picture before we actually expanded the star deck out on the back area, but it gives you a good idea of the twilight sky. And this is what the observatory looks like today, looking down during the daytime. The flat roof you see there's the dome, and then the roll-off building. In the back there, you see a couple more big telescopes, and those buildings actually roll off. So we actually have really nice, pretty horizons to work with. Well, you see the big bush on the lower right-hand side, that is where the new building is going to be going. So that front door is going to disappear. We'll have another roll-off, just like you see going off the back end of that building, to add 6 more piers. So we're excited about that expansion taking place later this year. Pretty excited about that. So I want to end there and talk, go ahead and answer some questions. This is one of the last pictures I want to show you. This was taken through one of our telescopes, looking straight overhead right now in the sky. We have the Andromeda Galaxy. And I should clarify, right now there's snow falling. So we're not seeing any sky, but you can actually see the Andromeda Galaxy. And I like talking about this because I always get people coming to the observatory and say, hey, how far can you see? And I tell them 2.5 million light years, because you can see the Andromeda Galaxy naked eye from Bend and from Sunriver if you know where to look. When I grew up in the Bay Area, there's no way you could see this naked eye, even on a dark, dark night. There's just no way, unless there was like an earthquake or something and power went out. But here in Central Oregon, you can actually see the Andromeda Galaxy, the next galaxy beyond, naked eye from your front porch, if there's enough darkness out there and you don't have your neighbor's lights turned on next to you. So just want to give you a little clarification. So if you haven't seen the Andromeda Galaxy and you have a clear night to come out to the observatory, we're going to currently do our program on Wednesdays and Saturdays for public groups. If you want to just do a private group with just your family, we're doing Tuesdays and Fridays where it's just, one family group up to 15 guests. And so it's all private, kind of more COVID friendly, if you will, for nighttime viewing. So that's kind of how I wanted to end tonight's program, and maybe take some questions and see if I can answer some of the things that I may not have covered, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. So one of our questions, it looks like, is, has Sunriver been granted the International Dark Sky Place certification?
Yeah, so we are the Oregon's only dark sky certified community in Oregon, and we actually got that in, don't hold me to the date, but I believe it was September 1 is when it was actually awarded to us. So next year, 2021, it's already 21, I can't believe it. We're going to actually do a little more plaque thing, a little bit more notification. We had a press release that went out when it first happened, but we'll do a little bit more. The COVID thing kind of put us a little behind on getting some signage out and things like that. But yeah, so we are Oregon's only dark sky community. I don't think we're going to be the last. We're working with Prineville Reservoir is our next prime target, to work with them to actually get them as a park that's a IDA approved place. And I know other communities are working on too, like Black Butte Ranch. And I believe a few other communities in Bend are trying to get those lighting ordinances in place so they can qualify.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah, I remember seeing the certification for that, the announcement. And I was like, how is that the only place in Oregon? But it takes effort. It takes a lot of effort.
And it was the forethought of the founders of Sunriver. When they built Sunriver, they really thought way ahead. I mean, way ahead. And they were able to make my life easier certainly. And it certainly made it possible for the observatory to thrive. Like I said, it's a unique facility. It's under a dark sky, and the community, the owners here, and the owners association have made it possible for us to get the certification. So it wasn't really the observatory; it's really a community thing.
Right. And in places like Bend and Redmond that are growing really rapidly, we do need to work on doing better to preserve what we have, which is why people want to live here. One of the
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah, well, Pine Mountain, the other observatory east of us, they also want to fit in that same category. Their big problem is they have Redmond is growing so fast. The
Mhm.
light pollution from Redmond is a real concern. So we're hoping Deschutes County lighting ordinance get more stringent, especially on new construction. The fact that there are new light fixtures available, I think will help developers do a little better with that.
Right. It looks like someone they live next to a bright street light that shines right under the front of their house, and it's a recent conversion to LED. The street light is, so it still broadcasts too far out. And is there any method of persuading the city of Bend to place full cutoff shielding to
So if
prevent
this
that
is,
broadcasting?
yeah, if this is City of Bend, I don't know if it's Central Oregon Energy or whatever they're called. I can't even remember the name of it, but you can give them a call if they're the ones that are putting the lights in. If it's a City of Bend, you can talk to the City of Bend, and certainly you can ask them to shield it. And that shouldn't be too expensive. It shouldn't be a real problem for them. And if you certainly can use it Sunriver as an example, where Midstate Electric literally went in and just put this metal box around the light fixtures. So I know friends of mine in Tumalo have the same problem. They have a light fixture that is a problem, and they went over to their neighbor. It wasn't a city deal. They went over to their neighbor, and they literally bought them a shield. And the neighbor's like, okay. So maybe that's a solution too.
Cool. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. These things are out there.
Yeah, barn doors, anything that points that light down, so you can. And if it's pointing right at their house, if they shield it on just the one side, maybe the city or whoever is in charge of that light might be a little bit more, mellow about it. So, especially if it's LED.
Right. Well, I had not realized that it was the thought that went into making Sunriver Dark Skies was something that came from the foundation of Sisters and making ordinances way in the past on this, and that's something to think about.
Yeah,
We
and I know there are a bunch of groups in Bend and a lot of communities in Northwest Crossing in particular, where they are concerned about their lighting and they want to improve it. So just having that discussion is a big thing. There's a couple groups in Bend. There's a group called Lights Out Bend that was part of Central Oregon's IDA group that wanted to do more in Bend and especially educate public about it. So there is been a little bit more interest in it. Deschutes County has had more discussions about how to deal with lighting. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm of reality. And I think new construction is where we really need to concentrate with making sure that the lights are pointing straight down. Because once you get the new construction at the rate we're building under control, I think then you can retrofit some of the old stuff. It's going to be tough with some of the big stores and stuff like that, but it's in neighborhood, it's a pretty easy fix, I think.
Which is cool that we can make small changes ourselves too, and not necessarily have to wait for an ordinance. We can do these on our own.
Yeah.
So thank you for the attendees. I had someone saying that they're originally from New York and they're blown away by the night sky in Redmond. So welcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. So I want to thank everyone in the audience. I know it's a busy day, and I appreciate you joining us tonight and learning more about our starscape and more about how we can have dark skies. The Deschutes Public Library has many wonderful programs this month that are all fun, free, and virtual. This program is recorded, and many of our programs are. The link will be available on our event calendar at DeschutesLibrary.org/calendar. And you can find upcoming programs or recordings of programs on the calendar in the monthly event guide in our YouTube channel. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. Oh, and it looks like Roundabout Books is selling the ODA calendars.
Oh, yeah. And we actually have those here at the observatory too, and they're selling pretty good.
Oregon Desert Association.
I have. Yes, right there. Yeah, these are great.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't know how well you can see that in the camera, but yeah, the Oregon Dark Sky calendars, super cool. Make especially beginning of the year, right? It's not like on a calendar. So yeah, they're available here at the observatory, and there's many spots in Bend that also have it too.
Wonderful. All right. Well, have a good rest of your evening, everyone, and go out and enjoy that night sky.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming out tonight, especially on a strange day like today.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.